I'm hoping that you're okay with working with these things mentally, okay? Because that's what we talked about last time. Finding the percent of a number with a calculator is probably easier, but you're not always carrying a calculator around with you, so make sure you're okay with what we did last time, what we did in the warm-up, which is figuring out things like this mentally, as in without using a calculator. It doesn't mean you don't have to, it doesn't mean you can't write anything down. It's easier if you write something down. But that's the first thing, is being able to do it mentally. Being able to do it with a calculator, because this is what we said we were going to get up to there at least, hopefully. Hopefully you managed to get up to at least there. I'm going to do these examples with you right now if you want to write them down. It's up to you. Okay, you can do them again on your own later if you want, or you can write them down right now. If you want to, actually, first what we're going to do is, okay, so let me start a new page here. First, let's just do percent of a number with a calculator. Oh. All right, are we okay with that? It's close enough to being right. If you want to do things like 130% of, so that number we had, right? 130% of 22, that's one of the questions from the warm-up. We did it mentally in the warm-up, but if you want to work this out using a calculator, here's what you need to do. Your calculator, most calculators don't have a percent button on them. The simple ones have a percent button on them. Scientific calculators don't have a percent button on them because you don't need one, right? As long as you know what percent means, you don't need a percent button. What does percent mean? Per 100, right? As long as you know what it means per 100, it means, basically means divided by 100, right? On your calculator, if you're going to work out 130% of 22, you write this as a decimal, and then you can put it on your calculator. 130% as a decimal, what's that? 130 per 100. 130 out of 100 is 1.30. You don't need to put the 0. You can just put 1.3 if you want. If you want 130% of 22, you're going to go 130 out of 100, or 1.3 times 22. You just change the percent to a decimal, and then you can put it on your calculator and figure it out. Oh, come on, not that. Okay, so if we want to figure this out here, 1.3, again, you don't need to put the 0, right? Putting a 0 after it doesn't matter. Times 22, and there you have it, right? 28.6, that was the answer that we had. Two calculators. If I want to know that you know how to do this, you need to show me a statement like this using decimals, right? It's easier because all you need to be able to do is use the calculator and change things to a decimal. If we want to do 67% of 286.93, just because this number is a weird number to work with, I wouldn't ask you to work with a number like that mentally, because it's a hard number to work with. What are you going to punch into your calculator? Jordan, why don't you tell me what you're going to put in your calculator? You got to pay attention, okay? What do you have to put in your calculator?
0.67
times
286.9.
Absolutely, that number, right? The key is just saying you got to be able to, by the end of this unit, you need to be able to switch between decimal and percent seamlessly without having to think about it. Lots of percentages, things that are called percentages, are quoted as decimals, and it's just assumed that people can switch between them. In hockey, save percentage is usually written as 0 point something, right? Or batting average is written as 0 point something, right? Although they don't call it a percent. Save percentage, they actually call it a percent, but they write it as 0.932 or something like that. 93.2%. we should probably get the answer to this. No matter what percentage I put here, as long as you can change it to a decimal, it's simple, right? Whoops. Even if it's 28.7% of 5,072. 28.7% of 5,072, as long as you can change it to a decimal. What would you put in your calculator for this? Somebody put up your hand and tell me. What would you put in your calculator for that? How would you put that on your calculator? What do you think?
0.287
Absolutely. Good for you. Okay? This is the key, right? Changing it to that, knowing that you have to put that on the calculator. And whatever that is, I suppose we should figure it out, right? 0.287 times 5072. Okay, 1455, 64. Are we okay with that? Now back to those problems that we were looking at here. These problems that you need to solve here, these are word problems, but it's not that, I don't think they're all that difficult word problems, because somewhere in here you'll see a percentage of a number, right? Percentage of a number. What you want to do for this is not just write an answer here. Show me that you know how to do it on a calculator, right? A 1/4% is slightly more difficult, right? A 1/4%. What do we need to do if we're going to put that on a calculator? I would first of all put 0.25% of 800. And then as a decimal, without the percent sign, what is that? Because that one's a tough one to change. 0.25%. People get those kind of ones wrong. What's 0.25% as a decimal? I know it already is a decimal there, but as a decimal means without the percent sign. What's the equivalent of this without the percent sign? What do you think? How do you change it? You take the decimal place, and which way do I move it here? I move it 2 more, right? 1, 2. So what's it going to be? 0.0025 times 800. If it's a percent less than 1, the first 2 things are going to be zeros, right? First 2 things are going to be zeros. If you do that on your calculator, that would be one you could do mentally. But since we're working on doing this on our calculator, let's do that. 0.0025 times 800. If you don't trust yourself to change 0.25% to a decimal, you can do it with, like, you can let the calculator change it to a decimal if you want. How would I let the calculator, let's say I wasn't sure that this is 0.0025. How could I let the calculator do the work? What could you do first? If I wasn't sure, I could get this right. But if I knew that it was 0.25%, what could I put in? Instead of putting 0.0025, if I wasn't sure. What does percent mean again? 0.25%. So let's say I wasn't sure about this. I didn't know what I was doing there. Or I didn't trust myself. 0.25%, what could I put in there? I could just put 0.25, but there's no percent button, but you don't need one because what can I put in instead? Just put divided by 100, right? 0.25 divided by 100 times 800. Right? 0.25 divided by 100 times 800. If you're not sure, you can do that, right? You can just put in, if you don't know, you can say 0.25%, I'm just going to go divided by 100. That's all it is, right? I don't know why this symbol turned into what it did, but somehow it comes from divided by 100 like that, times 800. There's no reason you can't get these things here, right? It's 2. Right? That's 2, which makes sense. You can think in your mind that 1% would be 8, so a 1/4% is 2. All the rest of the problems that are there for you to work with, right? It doesn't say that you need to calculate, but the idea here is that you work with the calculator to figure these out, because I want you to be able to do it both ways. And then there are some, you hopefully did the mental math part last time, so you only have the calculator part to do right now. But I'm really hoping that we can get up to at least here before lunch. That would be nice. Okay? So you need to finish these examples. You can check in the textbook if you want to have a look at how they do it. And then you need to do the show you know. Remember I gave you a copy of the answers to the show you know questions you can check. It was supposed to be that last page, but I gave it to you as a separate page. And then you can do the check your understanding stuff there. Okay?